Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gorgeous Growth Podcast, where we discuss strategies to take your beauty and wellness brand to the top. I'm your host, Oscar Guerrero, and today I'm joined by Dr. Ellana Stinson. Dr. Stinson is an ER physician and founder and CEO of Safo Hair. Dr. Stinson, thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to share and hopefully learn. So that's the goal here today.
Awesome, awesome. So, one of the things that really caught my attention was obviously you're a physician. So I said, how did you decide as a physician to start a brand?
Yeah. A lot of me is very entrepreneurial. And most of it, as most people, a lot of people go into this space for out of finding gaps in the market or a need, a personal need. And for me, it was when I had issues, healthcare issues. So I had issues with thyroid cancer and fertility issues. And saw a lot of major changes in my hair. Normally, my hair was like long and thick, and I started seeing it kind of falling off, brittle, breaking, trying every product on the market that was for African American hair, and nothing was working. So, I'm originally from Alabama. We have a lot of deep roots there with like herbal traditions and things like that. So some of the things I use that were kind of passed down. And then I really, because I'm in Boston, became really interested in the cannabis space. So as I'm doing my research on cannabis and having my own issues, excuse me, I had this aha moment. I'm like, why are we not using CBD in our products? Like that is crazy to me. So this idea came about in 2019, and I just started kind of learning and building and understanding an industry that I had not been in before at all. Like the most I'd been in it was like in the hair shops on the corner and going to Target picking up products. Otherwise, I did not care, So I at this moment, going through all my process of understanding like the markets and what customers pain points were, I realized I wasn't the only one having these issues. And people were actually curious. They're like, yes, how does CBD work on my hair? What does it do for me? And I felt like it was a perfect opportunity to build something for a demographic that otherwise was ignored by the beauty industry, to like build a brand that actually addressed the needs that weren't currently being met.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about that whole process of like formulation, because I'm sure that there's people out there. There's something that happens, that one step of actually
Mhm.
saying, okay, I've identified something in the market that could do well. I've identified a problem and a solution. Normally, it happens just like it did for you. It was a personal experience, but
Mhm.
then where do you go for formulation? How do you start that? What happens to like supply chain logistics?
Oh, oof.
Uh, all of this, like, there's all of these things that happen that have to happen. So where do you start with all that?
Yeah, so if you'd said those words to me back in 2019, I'd have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. So first it started with like educating myself. And luckily, not luckily, but in 2020, we all know what happened. The world shut down and everybody went online. Clubhouse became a thing. I got on Clubhouse super early and like just started asking questions like, how does this work? How did you do this? Is there such thing as a cosmetic chemist? And I do have a degree in chemistry, but I wasn't aware that there were actual, I knew chemists made these things, but I didn't know their title was cosmetic chemist. Like that's how unaware I was at this point. So a lot of it was around joining organizations, meeting with people virtually, and just kind of learning what I need to be doing next. So I eventually came across an article about this badass cosmetic chemist that was growing these brands, reached out to her, and then just kind of tapped into her network of other badass cosmetic chemists and just started working with building my own formulations. I don't white label. I'm building a unique brand with unique formulations with products that aren't, you won't find anything similar on the market right now. So I had to learn a lot of trial and error. Initially I see a lot of like these small brands going in the basement, like buying their own equipment and cooking up stuff in the basement. But my doctor had, I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I wanted to make sure my products were safe to use and the quality was there. What we're seeing a lot in the Black hair care space right now is we're learning how toxic our products are for us. you're seeing lawsuits around fibroids and uterine cancer. I've been using these products. I don't want to continue putting out a product that's going to contribute to health concerns just based off of my background. So I wanted to make sure, given my chemistry degree, I was working with someone who was far more educated in the chemistry space to make sure we're putting out quality and safe products. So it was a lot of learning, a lot of reading, a lot of educating and learning who to trust and not to trust.
Wow. And then are there any organizations or any resources that you recommend for brand owners who are starting out just like you started out?
I mean, I use Clubhouse quite frequently at the beginning, but like people were really accessible. I made a lot of contacts on Clubhouse. Like people were willingly giving out their phone numbers, and these are people who are running big brands themselves because it was quite exclusive at the beginning. So I felt like people trusted you a little bit more on Clubhouse. So I made a lot of connections there, have phone numbers that I would call people and ask questions. But one organization that I sought out very early was Cosmetic Executive Women. And that really paired me with a mentor that kind of helped me think about things at the beginning. And they have a lot of seminars, put out a lot of reports that also helped me understand the industry, which an industry that I was not in before, and also kind of start asking questions about how do I do deeper market research and understand what's being done currently. So they were instrumental in helping me kind of turn my wheels and help me on how I was thinking about certain things and starting a hair care company.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that people oftentimes overlook is really there's a human aspect to business. And you would be surprised if you reach out to people and just ask for help, how many people would be willing to just give you help and not really looking for anything in return. So, yeah, I mean, I think that what the difference is here is that you took action and you reached out. I mean, most people don't do that. That's definitely huge. So I'm sure that along the way you made mistakes. We all do, right? Any mistakes out there that you would probably tell people to any mistakes that you would want people to avoid?
Oh, so I mean, I wasn't really big in social media, so it intimidated me at the beginning, just based off my profession. I stay pretty private. You don't want patients finding you on social media and learning all this stuff about you, but yet here I am on a podcast, but that's fine. Um, so I think, I was always, it's overwhelming starting a brand from scratch, and you feel like you want to find experts in certain spaces. And I think for me, not knowing what expert meant and what I was capable of doing on my own and learning on my own, I think I would have probably taken a step back and sought out this help early on to figure out, do I need to be finding what type of social media experts or agencies do I need to be looking for? And I think I may have kind of stumbled in those spaces. Like I mentioned before, I did a crowd fund, and I think I spent quite a bit of money trying to get experts to help me that I probably could have been doing some of the work on my own. So really understanding cash flows and knowing your numbers and making sure you're bringing on key people, not just people to do work that you don't want to do, probably was my biggest mistake. So yeah,
Yeah,
budgeting and cash flows and understanding like people's true strengths and weaknesses before you bring them on.
yeah. Well, a lot of the things that I've realized is as I talk to brand owners, there are many owners out there who love the product side of things, and even like the organic, building the community and talking to people who would likely purchase their product and asking them how they feel about their product, but they really ignore the financial side of things. And
Mhm.
exactly what you just said, like the cash flow, what's your contribution margin, what does your lifetime value look like, your customer
Yes,
acquisition costs,
yes.
like what are your variable costs, all of these things. So one of the things that I tell owners is look at your look at your business the same way that venture capitalists, angel investors look at business. Like start to find out, and that information, all that information is out there. there's tons of information online, YouTube, all of that, where they will tell you like, okay, what does a venture capitalist, what does an angel investor, what do they look for in a brand, right? And then they'll get into like the contribution margin, what are your margins, all of these things that as an owner you should be looking at. But so many owners are just so like caught up in the product
Yeah.
that they're not looking at the business.
Yeah, and I think that other piece of, I mean, it sounds so easy, like look to see what the venture capitalists want and the angel investors, like that information is out there, but it's pretty complex, like
Yes,
even like the science of like setting your prices for your products is also there's a science to it all. And I think learning all of that just takes time. And I'm in awe at the companies that can just get out there, run, and then make their first million. And I'm just like, how in the world? Because and the other piece is I'm actually finishing up an MBA in finance. So I am learning all of these things about customer acquisition, lifetime value, like how to be a venture capitalist myself. Like not that I want to be a venture capitalist, but like learning about that is going to really help me kind of shift and grow the company as I'm knowing more. If you haven't learned anything about me, like I want to feel like I know the knowledge base, I feel it's something that I value and understanding what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I think that's gonna for any company, understanding all of that, the fundamentals is gonna lead to longevity.
absolutely, absolutely. It's funny that you say that. So today we're going to do things a little bit differently. Normally, we bring on brands that are making $1 million or more, or are at the $5 million mark, trying to get to the $10 million mark. Dr. Stinson's here because I believe that she has a great product. She has sound fundamentals. There's been a lot of work that's been put into this. She has grown her brand organically to where it is, but the question is now, as we speak, is okay. We need to solve for acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are recommendations that I make with this, and it all depends on you as the owner. What do you want to do? What are you willing to do? What are your strong points? What are your weaknesses? Um, you're obviously a person who likes the information and likes doing.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people who like doing, like I'm a big believer or advocate of Smart Marketer. If you look at Smart Marketer, I believe it's run by Ezra Firestone and Molly Pittman, um, and John Grimshaw, and yeah, they have a whole team over there. So basically, they were able to build their marketing, their systems on the work that they did for Boom by Cindy Joseph. For those who aren't aware of who that is, it's a really large cosmetics company, and they ran the ads for them, and they've done the organic and they've done the email, and it's proven, right? So one of the things that I recommend for brand owners to do, either themselves or alongside someone that they're hiring that's going to actually be running their ads, is taking the train my traffic person
Mm-hmm.
course. So like that's a course where they will actually, like, you'll have the opportunity to sit there with Molly Pittman and her team and actually go through building out an account, learning all the little buttons inside a business manager, because Facebook is complex and it's getting more and more complex. And trying to learn that on your own, you will probably burn through a boatload of money. So I would say having the opportunity to sit there with a media buyer who's experienced, that will actually go through all this with you, would be super helpful. So that would be like my number one tip for acquisition, right? It's like, you need to run ads, right? But we want to run ads that are profitable. And how do we do that? Now, the other thing that I think is worth talking about is, because you've done all the legwork for
Mm-hmm.
finding the product, creating the product, finding a product that's going to serve a very specific part of the community. And that's very important, because most of the brands that we work with, what I notice that what differentiates the ones who do well and the ones who don't is just that. It's finding this segment, this niche, and saying like, okay, these are the people who are going to purchase our brand, who are going to purchase our products. These are the people that we serve, right? Uh, the other side of this, of course, is getting attention. And this is really about gaining attention. So there's the acquisition end of this, which can be paid, right? In the past, the focus, and when I say the past, I'm talking like a year ago. It's not that long ago. The focus was always like, you have to run the ads, and you have to get the acquisition and dial that in, and then you would be fine. The efficiency of ads was wonderful. People were stumbling into ads that gave them a 3 to 5x return, and then and basically scaling that to $1 million. Because if you're able to put $1 into a machine and the machine gives you $3 back, how much money do you put into the machine? The answer is put in as much as you can, right?
Right.
So that's exactly what people were doing. The difference is the game has changed. So now it's not only about that, getting a 3 to 5x return, but it's the focus has to be changed to the actual building the actual brand, because there's so much competition out there, right? Markets are saturated. People are not going to win on convenience. Like, Amazon exists. You know what I mean? Like, just because I can order your product online, that's not enough, right? So what is really going to move people to purchase from you? And really what it is, it's a connection. It's a belief, right? It's like
brand story and like who's behind the brand too. Like all of this is critical and why I'm being very intentional about building all of that. And I recognize that early on too, I've worked closely and then the aesthetic of the brand as well. People are very conscious now of what they're putting on their body and in their body. So all of this matters when building a brand. Your brand is gonna speak for itself a lot of times.
oh yeah,
Also needs to have that right voice and tenor behind it to make it stand out in such a crowded space.
oh yeah. So then it's like, what one of the things that I focus on when I work with brands is, what does the customer experience look like? That's so important, right? It's important that they go on your website, and when they purchase something, what's that experience? And that experience begins from the minute that they purchase. They might have a little regret. They might be, I don't know if I did the right thing here, spent the right money. Like, you need to reassure them. You need to build a relationship with them. You need to let them know you care. And then when their package finally arrives, it even comes down to the packaging.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say all of that put together, the messaging, the experience, and then organically is another part of acquisition, which, by the way, I think you actually are have seen some nice growth organically. So it's all about embedding yourself in this community that is going to consume the product that you created for the community. Some brands think that they're going to create a community, and I don't think that that's how it works. I think it's really like, you're in the community, you understand the community, and then you've embedded yourself in there, and people will then come to you.
I think that was one mistake I made at the beginning. I thought I was going to be building a community, and I realized probably a year out of probably around 2020 and beginning 2021 that was probably impossible for me as a non-celebrity, low profile social media person to build a non-existing community.
Well, I think that
you brought that up.
Some people really don't like influencers, but I do
They
think
have value.
they play a role. They definitely play a role. There seems to be in the beauty industry, there seems to be kind of like a rift that I see with the influencer space, and it's basically, and you as a doctor with a chemistry background probably may have experienced this. If you're on TikTok and you're scrolling and you see an influencer who has a lot of influence, right? Because they have a huge following, giving the wrong advice, and a lot of people are following that. It really gets frustrating for people with a scientific background. It's like, wait, that's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, we see this with everything. It's not just beauty. We see it in politics, we see it in healthcare. We see all these people who have a following, who have built these communities, realizing what works. It's kind of like, okay, this is working. I'm going to stick to it because it brings in dollars, it brings in attention. And we know now with social media, the larger your following, the more valuable you are. So I think sometimes people will just say and do stuff to get followers, and they may think they know something. And I think this word expert is thrown around a lot, that people start to think they're an expert without having the knowledge base. And and unfortunately, that's just kind of the society we live in. So you have these people who are on TikTok now, and they're realizing that if they push something, they're going to get more followers. And I think it's up to us as the consumer, both consumer of goods and just information, just in general, that we have to be able to know where to get solid research. And we saw this during COVID with the vaccine. Like, this isn't new. This is just how we operate now as society under this social media world we live in. So, I mean, it's just up to the consumer to make sure that they know what they're getting into. But it's unfortunate that, the word expert is thrown around so much and these influencers are looked to as experts. And I'm not saying all influencers. Some influencers really are pushing good content that's solid and safe, but there are some that are pushing content that's not true and not safe. And I think our challenge, and ironically, there are people who are doing research on this, PhDs at like large institutions are trying to study how people consume their information. And it's really going to be up to us, the true people that have the knowledge and the background, to just really get out in front of this. And I think we're behind because we don't always have the same followings as some of these influencers who figured out the secret to building these communities where we may not have the same communities. And I think we just have to figure out how to do it and how to be able to push the information, that will combat it, to where consumers are like, wait, is that correct or is this correct? And then learn the people who actually know. And I think I got sucked into some of this early on in building my business. Like, who's the actual expert, So I think there's another opportunity here, not for me, myself, but for other people in this space to kind of figure out ways to build platforms that people can go to, that they can find trustworthy information.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree 100%. Are there any other mistakes or pitfalls that you would want to share or tell people, hey guys, don't do this, or if you can avoid
Yeah,
this?
I could probably write a book about all the mistakes, and I'm still learning. There's still pieces, I feel like I have the product side down pat with, like you mentioned, the branding, the brand story, the manufacturing, the formulation, logistics, like the whole warehousing, like all of that. I'm like an expert. If you need anything, I got you. But I'm still learning like the advertisement side, the social media side, those things that are going to build that customer acquisition piece. But I think for me specifically, as a brand that started with two products that had CBD in them, I wasn't aware of like the regulations and things that surrounded it as it pertained to social media, because I was so headset on, like, headstrong, and focused on bringing in these two products that are absolutely amazing. Not a whole lot on the market like them right now. There's a few more CBD brands that have popped up in the hair care space since I started. But social media was not like a primary focus of mine when I started. So I think, for people thinking about how they're going to build their consumer base, should be foremost when they start a brand. I find that hair care brands that start from people who work in salons, they have a built-in consumer base and audience that I don't necessarily have. I can't go to the emergency room and start pushing my products, which I wish I could. I'd probably go to jail, but can't do that. So I think, thinking, having that knowledge of like where my consumers are going to come from, I would have done that differently, as opposed to like building the product and then figuring it out. And then also understanding rules and regulations around certain things if you're going to be doing a unique product like CBD. So that prohibited me early on from running ads, So and this was early too, before a lot of legislation was kind of passed. So I had to bring on lawyers, and like I ended up with a huge grant from Facebook itself to run ads. And then I had CBD in my product. So it's like I could not really run the ads the way I wanted to. And I couldn't run them with certain language and things like that. So it took me at least 6 months to figure out how to run an ad. I'm sitting on this grant and I'm like, how do I do this? Because I wasn't getting much guidance from the company or Facebook. And it's like, but don't screw up because we're going to shut your Facebook account down. So that was like terrifying to me. So,
Wow.
done all this work to build a brand, and then I'm being threatened to like, well, you better figure it out or else you're going to shut your account down type thing. So, I think recognizing if you're going to enter into a space that may be highly regulated to make sure that you know what you're doing before, or maybe starting with products that are not highly regulated, or they're not regulated, but like the regulated on the advertisement side of things, because
Right.
yay in CBD is legal, but like there's still regulations on the social media ad side that I wasn't aware of. So I probably would have, biggest mistake, I probably would have started with my non-CBD products, grown my following consumer base, and then launched the CBD side of it.
So right now, do you have any new products that you're thinking of launching as well?
Yes, there's so many, and I'm so excited about them. So we use a lot of ingredients from like the Mediterranean area, and then also traditional ingredients from the continent of Africa. One ingredient that I'm super excited about are mushrooms. So we're using mushrooms in some of our products. I am really, really, really the brand itself, Safo Hair, is really focused on not just the beauty aspect, but the health and wellness aspect of hair care. So we really want to focus on the fact that people are really caring about their scalp. That's the one thing that goes like we just ignore it. We want our curls to pop, we want our hair to be straight, we want the frizz to be gone, but we don't recognize that, we spend a lot of time on our face. We don't spend a lot of time on our scalp the way we should. So we have a lot of scalp products that are coming out, really focusing on like the health of the follicles and improving blood flow to the scalp, and antioxidant ingredients that have antioxidants that keep that scalp healthy, because a lot of times the health of our scalp is what impacts our hair growth. And also, being a medical professional, I am also very interested in the wellness side, because a lot of times, especially in the African American community, we're not recognizing that what's happening inside our bodies are also affecting our hair. And then we go to ingredients that may not be very helpful for us, or we start doing wigs and other things, and we start to see our edges fall out, not realizing that those are also issues internally. So the idea of Safo is not just another hair care brand, and it's not just about hair. It's about our health and our wellness, and making sure we're getting to the root of what the issues are, and really focusing on scalp health as well. So, we have some amazing scalp products that'll be coming out, some really cool, unique shampoo stuff that is coming out. And then we are working on a uniquely formulated edge control as well, because that's really popular right now. And we're finding a lot of these edge control products are pretty toxic for the body. So we're making sure that our products are going to deliver on how well they hold, but also making sure they're keeping your edges nourished and growing. So
Nice. Wow. So it sounds like you guys have a lot of exciting things going on.
yeah, and
Sure.
we're not a big brand, so everything's slow growing. Making sure our products are right. We spend money on these formulations, and if it's not right, we're not putting it out. So, it takes time to get the right formulations, the right feel and smell and consistency, and that the stability is there, and that making sure there's no fungus or mold that's going to grow in our product. So it takes time, and I feel like each product is my baby. I'm always amazed at how like people push out products so fast. I'm not a Procter and Gamble. So like I want to make sure that I've touched and felt and smelled every single thing, and I've used it before it comes out. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's nothing wrong with slow and steady, right? And as long as progress is being made, I think there's a lot of people out there who may be trying to rush, trying to rush their brand to the millions and millions, and that's not always the best way to go, because there's also, I've seen brands that are slow and very profitable. We're working with a brand right now that when we started working with them, they were at about $120,000 per year, but they were at $120,000 per year and I would say they were more profitable than most of the brands we were working with that were at $500,000 per year.
Wow.
And they've continually grown. And that growth over, we've worked with them now for about a year and a half, and maybe they've doubled in size. And a lot of people are like, oh, they've only doubled in size. They're only at $250,000 per year. Yeah, they're at a quarter million, but they're at a quarter million now that's more profitable than many brands out there who are even larger than them revenue wise. So that top dollar, and I think
Yeah.
that that's also like there has been a shift where people are no longer just looking at the top dollar at revenue, they're looking at profitability. Whereas before, everything was revenue based because you can impress you can impress people, you can impress investors if your top dollar was large enough. People weren't even looking at the profitability because they were like, oh, this has the potential, this has
Yeah.
so much of the market. Now it's more like, wait, hold on a second. So like I said, I'm
And
not
that
a
goes
good.
back to that whole cash flow management piece, and also like knowing your balance sheets and all these other things. Like if you don't, you're not going to be profitable. And I think a lot of investment, just looking at that revenue, that's a very tech focused investment thing to think about. Like the tech companies are like generating all this revenue, they have potential. So I don't think, and this is my MBA background kind of jumping in there. You can't take that same mentality into every industry. Even though you're generating a lot of revenue, profitability is going to matter in certain industries over others. And I think that, thinking like that is a very tech investing industry way to think about it, and it may not always work for other industries.
Yeah, it doesn't translate to everything and everyone. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So if anyone out there is listening and you feel bad, don't feel bad. Look at your profitability. You would be surprised at the things that I see. I see brands that are in the millions. I work with them, and we have worked very hard over the past year to actually make them profitable by increasing lifetime value. That's our mission. Like my mission, because I run an agency, and we do life cycle marketing, and basically what we're looking at is like, what do we do to bring these people back? Because if you have a great brand and it fulfills the promise and the price is right, people should come back and buy again.
And
So
there's
that that's what.
and there's also this thing around like your rate of growth too, like how you're growing. Like there's a science to all of it. And then just that life cycle is extremely critical, like your return customers, your customer acquisition prices, how you're pricing your products. Like all of that's critical. And it's not just about going from stage one of growth to stage four of growth in like 2 weeks. Like each stage is very critical, and how you're attacking it is going to impact one, your profitability, and two, your longevity and how long you're going to be able to be in business basically.
Yeah, anyone who told you that this is easy lied. All right.
Someone told me it was easy. I'm like thinking about them right now, and I'm like, it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, doing it and doing it right are two different things. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, doing it right is definitely not an easy thing. And there are things you have to think about, right? Like average order value. How do I get my average order value up? What's the price elasticity of my product? Like these are things that, yeah, people have to take into consideration. So awesome. So listen, it has been wonderful to meet you, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences and your advice. If there's where can people learn more about Safo Beauty and Dr. Stinson?
So Safo Hair, we have a website, Safo Hair, Hair, safohair.com. We have a page on there that's about me. Again, I'm not, I'm learning to get more comfortable and get in front of cameras, learning more about the brand as well. And we do a lot of blogging. So like just learning about like hair types and the ingredients that we use. You can also find that on the website, and you can shop all of our products that are available there. We mostly have hair care products, and we do have a scarf that is super amazing. I designed it myself, so just take a look. Could be used for like those who want to protect their hair at night when they're sleeping. I actually wear mine out. I get a lot of compliments on it. I wear it as
Oh,
an
nice.
accessory. So we have products that are out. We have more products that are coming out that are super exciting, and with ingredients that aren't currently being used in major markets right now. So I just want people to just kind of stay up to date, sign up for the newsletter, learn about what's happening over on the Safo side. We're also on social media, Instagram and Facebook as well, if you just want to follow along. We do have tips, hair tips and inspiration and things like that to kind of think about. We really want to focus on people who are having issues with like hair loss, thinning, dry and brittle hair. So if that's you, you definitely want to follow along with us. So just stay tuned and hopefully we'll be in everyone's household at some point. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
thank you.